Good afternoon, everybody watching the show today. Welcome to Live at the Waterhole. My name is Kerry Dupree, and I will be your naturalist presenter for the afternoon. We have started off today at King's Camp in the Timbavati Game Reserve with four terrapins, that are looking pretty chilled. It's a bit of a rainy day across southern Africa today, especially in South Africa. So I'm not surprised these terrapins are coming outside to try and absorb some sunshine. I must say, I think I want to do the same thing after all this rain we've been having. So just a reminder, folks, that this is a live and interactive experience. So if you'd like to send through your questions, comments, or join in the conversation, please feel free to head across to our Twitter or X, as well as the YouTube channels, or you can scan the QR code on screen now, as well as using the hashtag at Wild Earth. Pretty cool to see these little terrapins here. Let's just watch them for a moment. They're rather fascinating reptiles, these terrapins. So, of course, they are mostly a semi-aquatic species, and they can be found in quite a variety of dams, rivers, and even brackish little puddles. They don't necessarily need much water in order to survive. They can also occur in very swampy, marshy areas, and they also move quite a lot of distance between one waterhole to the next. It seems like here at King's Camp, it is a terrapin's paradise. So one of the most common species of terrapins is the diamond-backed terrapin. It's in the UK, which you might know of. It's kind of the same as our terrapin we get here in Africa. These terrapins do have quite distinct markings on their shells, and one of their defense mechanisms is when they do get picked up, they do excrete a very foul smelling liquid, which is a very good way of getting their predators to drop them instantly. This liquid is very foul smelling. I must say, on a few occasions when I have picked up a terrapin, of course, as children, can sometimes not resist the urge to pick up these little terrapins, and then you get this rather nasty liquid that they excrete on you, same as with tortoises. That is very foul smelling. Check out these little guys, how cute. This one in the front looks like he's fully retracted into his shell, having a lovely little nap. Thursday afternoon terrapin nap. Mercedes-Benz, thank you for joining us today. Happy Thursday, it is indeed. I hope everybody is having a lovely week so far, and it is such a privilege to be able to join you here on Live at the Waterhole, viewing these very interesting little terrapins. Check out those claws that they have, especially designed and developed for the habitat that they live in. And of course for hunting methods as well. So they generally do feed on small fish, mollusks, as well as crustaceans. They have a very powerful jaw as well as those claws of theirs for hunting, and also cracking open shells of their mollusks that they like to feed on. Harriet Hodgen, thank you for joining us. It is a lovely Thursday afternoon. Looks like it's been a bit overcast at some of our locations on the live drives. I've been experiencing a lot of rainfall recently, a lot of overcast weather, a bit of drizzling here and there. So I know it was a bit quiet on Juma today. We had a birding day for sure. Steve had a pretty cool sighting of red-headed weaver building his nest. other than that, and it's been a little bit quiet on our locations on the morning safari. There was a brief sighting of Lalamba, which was pretty cool to see her briefly, but otherwise it's been a little bit of a quiet morning all around. Hopefully the sun starts shining and brings all the animals out again. You can hear our buffalo weavers in the background there, giving a bit of a call. So last week I was having a bird mania birding bonanza week. We did pretty well. I got a new birding record for live at the waterhole, 40 birds in one session of live at the waterhole, which I was pretty chuffed with, pretty great. I think we're probably going to start our birding bonanza tomorrow for a Feather Friday and see how many birds we can get. Now, buffalo weavers calling in the background, as well as the spurfowl. These terrapins look like they are having a great morning, afternoon in the sunshine, soaking up those rays of sun. Shucks, there are so many terrapins at this little pan here at King's Camp. Must be perfect habitat for them. Enough food, enough water. It's definitely a very good sign of a healthy ecosystem. They're very cute with their little heads sticking out and these little beady eyes of theirs. So terrapins are a very good example of adaptation and resilience amongst reptiles. So not all reptiles could survive in the brackish, dirty, muddy water that these terrapins have specially adapted to being able to survive in. So, good question there, Jamie. So, Jamie is asking a question about why are there so many terrapins at this little pan and what are their predators? So, again, as I mentioned, the reason there could be so many terrapin here is because it's a healthy ecosystem, a lot of food availability for enough of enough that the kind of population is booming. So yeah, that would be a very good reason for there being so many. There's lots of water, which is also great. And predators you might get of terrapins, or everything that can manage to get into a terrapin, I guess, would give it a bash. I've seen hyenas chomping away at a poor terrapin before, but you do get birds like herons and gulls that will give their chances, that take their chances to hunt a terrapin or also feed on the eggs. Um, and of course, you'll get some snakes that might take their chances with the eggs of terrapins. So it's mostly when the terrapins are very small, their shells are quite soft, as well as when they have their eggs. The eggs are susceptible to predation by a lot of other species like crocodiles, snakes, humans, even in some cases, crabs will also feed on baby terrapins too. So when they're small, they have a lot of predators, but as they become larger in size and those shells of theirs start to grow and develop and become harder, it is a very difficult meal, I would say. I'm not sure if the juice would be worth the squeeze from a adult terrapin like these individuals we're seeing now. Because like I said, there's that very foul smelling liquid, and of course, yeah, very difficult to get into that shell. Oh, that is the alarm call of some oxpeckers. Maybe there is an antelope or a big mammal species close by. See that light colored skin underneath these terrapins? How cute. You can see how he's using those claws as a way of moving around. So Rachel, thanks for your question as well. So Rachel's asking, why do you find terrapins in puddles far away from large bodies of water? So we're just talking just now about terrapins and how well adapted terrapins are to surviving in very harsh conditions. So if a terrapin is moving from one large water source to another over great distances, they of course, they do rely on water, although they can go for a few days while moving from one water source to another. And in that period, at some stage, they do need to find at least some sort of water. And that's when they will actually dive into puddles and rest while moving. So, kind of like hippos. So, hippos will also travel many kilometers at night to find water, but at kind of during the light of the day, they do need to get back into a water source in order to not get their skin damaged by the sun and dehydrate themselves. So these terrapins will also do the same thing. They'll move from one water source to another and use little puddles to get some moisture onto their skin. That's generally when we end up finding them quite a lot of the time. They'll be in puddles on roads, puddles on the sides of the roads as well. Rather strange looking creatures, aren't they? Lovely to just take some time to appreciate these little creatures. Alrighty, let's let our terrapins have a bit of a break, and why don't we head across to Tower Lodge, see what's happening over in Madikwe. Alrighty, welcome to Tower Lodge, everybody. Tower Lodge has been quite a busy location last week. Not sure what's been happening this week, but it was definitely very busy for us last week. Great for birding, lots of mammals coming through, like waterbuck, all the elephants. Yeah, definitely waterbuck and baboons coming to feed on this lovely lush grass. Looks like they've had a bit of rain at Tower Lodge. Some nice green grass kind of starting to grow through on the sides there, and pan has definitely filled up a lot. And we've got a beautiful waterbuck male enjoying the sunshine. Alrighty, it seems like it's a bit of a quiet day at Tower Lodge, so why don't we head across to Tembe Elephant Park and see what else is out there today. Whoa, take a nice big elephant bull here, Tembe Elephant Park. Also looking like a bit of an overcast, cool day. Over in Tembe, I must say I do love this cold weather. It is lovely, but sunshine sometime would be great. So we have some impala, also in the kind of around the pan there, feeding on some grass and some nice big elephant bulls. I think Tembe never disappoints us with Some beautiful specimens of elephant bulls with lovely long tusks. Maybe there's going to be a bit of a challenge here. Looks like there's a bit of aggressive behavior amongst these bulls. Let's see what happens. Oh, a bit of aggressive dominant behavior amongst these elephant bulls can always lead into a bit of a spat or a bit of a challenge of some sort. So I have a grey heron, black-headed heron on the edge of the pan there. Birding at Tower Lodge is also being on point. Great birds at this location. These elephant bulls. I think he's afraid of the other big bull. I think he's less dominant, or maybe they know each other. Have had some previous altercations. Definitely wants to stay out of the way. Seems like our other elephant bull friend has disappeared. We've also got some white-faced whistling ducks. They're still around. Good to see our white-faced whistlers are still at this pan. I think there's been 8 that have been at this pan here in Tembe for the last 2 weeks. So it's great to see they still hanging around, and hopefully water levels will rise soon and maybe they will start nesting. What a lovely big elephant bull this is. Joanne Miller, thank you for joining us on this thirsty Thursday. This elephant bull definitely looks like he is rather thirsty. And Debbie, I agree with you. It is always a pleasure watching these big elephant bulls. He has a very impressive set of tusks on him there. And our impala also just having a nice chilled Thursday afternoon, grazing away. Wally is asking what is the biggest elephant herd that I have ever seen? So, Wally, the biggest elephant herd I have ever seen, like actual herd conglomerate, one specific unit. So it was in Wangi National Park, and they are known as the presidential herd. So what happens with a lot of these kind of populations of elephants within big areas? So Wangi National Park is obviously one of the largest national parks in Africa, the same size as Wales. It is a massive, massive reserve, and it is actually joined up with the Chobe National Park. There's a transfrontier between Wangi and Chobe, a national park where the elephants can actually move between Zimbabwe and Botswana without passports. How lucky are they? But yeah, so these elephants can move very, very great distances in order to move between these two areas. And yeah, so during the wet season, the rainy season, what happens is this large herd will normally split up into smaller family units, anything between 5 to 20, 30 individuals within one little family unit or family herd. But during the dry season, they all congregate together, and the numbers of this herd have been recorded anywhere between 2 to 300 individuals altogether. And yeah, if you go to Zambezi National Park or to Wangi National Park during the dry season, your chances of getting stuck in some elephant traffic with this presidential herd crossing the road are pretty high. So I think that was probably the largest elephant breeding herd that I have seen. Of course, there will be some males in there as well, some big bulls joining up with the ladies. But yeah, I was been stuck quite a few times for half an hour, 30 minutes while these 30 minutes, 40 minutes, even 1 hour once with these elephants all moving across the road going to water. So, Lenny, thanks for your comment about Tembe and how well Tembe has survived the dry season. So, I think Tembe's weather this year or climate this year has been a little bit different. They did experience some rains during the dry season, which has helped to keep Tembe quite nice and green, I must say. So, throughout the dry season, Tembe has been one of our only locations that has remained green and a little bit lush and with some grass and greenery. So it has been quite a lovely sight coming over to Tembe and seeing this lovely green grass. So I'm sure it's only going to get greener as we head into our rainy season. So it's a little bit early for the rains in some regions in southern Africa, but the rains have started. So yeah, it's been quite difficult the rain for the last couple of years in Africa. Sometimes normally are only arriving in December, but seems like this year the rains in most regions in southern Africa are arriving, and it is amazing to experience that first rains of the rainy season after a very long dry season. That smell, apparently, there is a perfume company that have managed to capture that smell of the first rains in a fragrance, which is quite beautiful. Definitely something to live for, those rains. Catherine, thanks for your comment about the herd of 300 elephants you've seen in Caprivi. Yeah, I'm not surprised. In places in Botswana, you definitely do get very, very large breeding herds. Even into Zambia, I've seen very big breeding herds. Yeah. So here is our little grey heron friend. Let's give him a watch, see what he's up to today. See if he's going to go for a hunt, catch a fish for lunch. Doesn't seem very active, this grey heron today. I was hoping he might give us a bit of a show. So we had a pretty epic sighting last week of a black-crowned night heron over at Tower Lodge. So that was one of my highlights of my birding list from last week. And of course, we do have the grey heron that is a resident over in Tower Lodge that, yeah, he has some hard weekends, struggles with Mondays and Thursdays occasionally, looks a little bit ruffled and, yep, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed some days. So, Riley, thanks for your question about birds and if all birds are this patient when it comes to hunting. So, yeah, birds are very patient. You do get, obviously, so yeah, obviously different birds do have different hunting strategies, but particularly with the heron family, they do need to have a lot of patience while waiting for fish in order to snatch up a meal. So yeah, you do get birds, different hunting methods in birds. You do get aerial birds, which is normally birds of prey like falcons and eagles, which of course are experts in aerial hunting. You do get hovering and pouncing birds like the kestrels and kingfishers that again will hover above the ground or water to spot prey. This takes a lot of patience. You do get stalking and ambushing birds like the herons, bitterns, and egrets, like our grey heron friend, as well as plunging birds like some of the seabirds, gannets, hobbies, and of course our little pied kingfishers and giant kingfishers. Talking about birds, we're just having a quick scan to see if we can find our weavers that were very busy building their nests. Awesome. So we are chatting about birds and different methods of hunting in birds. And it's actually quite interesting. You do get some birds that also will use tools in order to hunt. So certain birds like crows and even some herons will from time to time use tools to attract their prey or even to capture their prey. So for example, crows sometimes will drop nuts on the ground. To be cracked by cars or vehicles or something passing by, and then they'll take these nuts, put them into the water, and actually use those nuts to lure some fish. And that's how crows can hunt for fish. So it's a pretty cool hunting strategy. Looks like we have a giraffe friend that is trying very hard to hide himself. You can just see a tail flicking every now and then. His camouflage is not working so well today. His blender is not blending in too well. It looks like could be a female giraffe. Hopefully she'll come down for a drink. Oh, no, it's actually a big male, quite a light colored male, but yeah, a lovely big male giraffe looking very skeptical and nervous in a specific direction. What is he looking for? I know in this kind of side of the pan, often you've had lion or once had lion sighting here, so maybe there's some lions around or some predators around. But giraffe in general are quite nervous when it comes to feeding, coming down for a drink. They do generally take their time, make sure they scout and scan the area well before going down for a drink. So another cool hunting kind of strategy in birds is kleptoparasitism, which is a form of stealing. So some birds, such as the frigate bird or some squawkers, even some seagulls, will actually steal food from other birds. So they harass other birds, forcing them to drop or regurgitate their prey, and then they kind of catch their prey. So I've seen this happening also in kingfishers, as well as fish eagles. I've seen fish eagles stealing prey from darters. Pretty cool. And we have a dark-capped bulbul and what looks like the first foam nest tree frog nest that I've seen this rainy season so far, which is pretty cool. So this foam nest has some frog's eggs inside that will hatch into tadpoles, and hopefully, if they've done their calculations on water levels right, the frogs will land in the water and ready to start the cycle of life. So Laura is asking a question about this giraffe of ours, and does the shade of their patterns or the shade of their skin, what does it depend on? So in giraffe, it all depends on mostly genetics, obviously different from one region to the next. It will kind of depend on the genes and the species of giraffe. I know there was at one stage considered to be 9 different subspecies of giraffe. I think they're down to 7 at the moment. So again, it will depend on the region, the species, and of course genetics. So I know a lot of people believe that it's only the males that can be dark, but I have seen a few very dark females. Oh, got an elephant walking past us at the bottom of screen here. So yeah, I have seen very dark female giraffe as well. So it can be something that comes with age, but again, it's just genetic. Same as with us humans. Some people have lighter skin, some people have darker skin. The same goes with giraffe. About regions, which species, as well as genetics. Watch this elephant bull having a bit of a sand bath for a bit and enjoy this beautiful scene and all the birds calling in the background. Alrighty, folks, why don't we head across to Victoria Falls and see what's happening there? Maybe we catch the vulture feed. Welcome to Victoria Falls, everyone. It is vulture restaurant feeding time. Let's enjoy this beautiful view of these vultures as they frantically scurry for their lunch. quite a lot happening here, folks. We're just enjoying this crazy view of all these vultures fighting over what food they can get. It's definitely an vulture buffet out there. Lots, not much food to go around, so they all have to fight for every little morsel. So, just a few questions coming through here. So, Michelle is asking about if these vulture know when feeding time is and how they can tell that they're going to be fed on a daily basis. So, this vulture restaurant is one of the big attractions of Safari Lodge, Wangi Safari. I'm sorry, Wangi Safari Lodge, Victoria Falls Safari Lodge. Sorry, folks, I'm in the wrong town. But yeah, so it is one of the main attractions of Victoria Falls Safari Lodge. I would definitely recommend if you're in Victoria Falls at the time, definitely coming down to enjoy the view and watch the vulture feeding sessions take place. Yeah, so basically, I don't think they can quite tell the time, birds, but obviously they will. Because most vultures around 10 o'clock, that's when they start trying to catch a wind, catching a thermal. So they will obviously use thermal awareness and kind of very intuitive to the times of the day, depending on where the sun is. But of course, lots of vultures will start congregating and collecting at this location around about the time that feeding will take place. So maybe they'll go up, try and catch a thermal or so. If they don't see any other food out there, I'm sure they'll make their way straight back to this area. And if they see a lot of other vultures in the area, the vultures have very incredible eyesight. So they definitely know when there's other vultures on a feed or feeding at the same time. So they're not able to tell the time like us humans, although they have evolved a very impressive sensitivity to the environment and social cues, which is enabling them to kind of adapt to daily routines. And yeah, that's how they would be aware of the feedings that take place at this vulture restaurant. So, different array of vultures here. So, obviously, there was a couple of marabou storks. Always awesome to watch those marabous trying to steal a bit of food here and there. The majority of these vultures are the white-backed vultures, which is one of the more common vulture species in Africa. We do also have a few hooded vulture, and I always keep my eye out for some Cape vultures, which are much bigger than the white-backed and have a lot more white coloration on their bodies as well. So, but they're a little bit more rare. But yeah, awesome to see these vultures having their feeding, their lunchtime. If we're lucky, sometimes we also have warthogs that might come around looking for a little bit of a morsel that might be left over, as most pigs and warthogs are actually omnivorous. So Mercedes-Benz and Daniel Solifo. Great sighting of these vultures. Agree with you there. Also awesome to watch these vultures having a good feeding session. And yeah, it is incredible to see so many vultures all in the same place at the same time. And Rosie Adam, thanks for your comment there about all these looking like one single organism. Yeah, they do all feed together, and again, all part of the circle of life, and contribute towards keeping the environment clean and acting as a very good anti-parasitic removal system. So they're like the detergents or the cleaning agents of the animal world, a very important part of our ecosystem. Rosie Adams also sent another question about the frog's eggs, the foam nest, tree frog's nest, and yes, so those little eggs or the tadpoles do stand a chance of possibly being eaten by birds once they drop into the water or if they don't quite make it to the water. So they are susceptible to predation, but when they are in that foam nest, they are pretty well protected because one, it's hanging off the edge of a branch, it's difficult for anything to get in there, and two, that foam is quite difficult to maneuver around. So yeah, it's a very good defense mechanism to have around their eggs. Oh, I love the hopping of the vultures. So I once on a game drive to get this vulture hopping away. So it's kind of a bit of a yeah, in vultures it's a bit of a threatening tactic. So they'll hop away with their wings wide open as a way of like threatening other individuals, or yeah, just kind of like a very macho behavior. And on a game drive once, I don't know, I ended up getting roped into doing a vulture dance. So I do a pretty good vulture dance, I must say. Just have your arms out and do this hopping, dancing vulture kind of dance, and it's a lot of fun. Oh, really interesting vultures. Don't make much noise or vocalizations, but obviously they do have an array of kind of bleats, squeaks, and squeals that they can make, like hissing sounds as well when fighting for meat at a. Oh, so these vulture around here for a while, picking up on whatever scraps is left, and then if they can't find too much, then they'll probably head off into up into the sky, try and catch a thermal, see if they can get any other food close by. Yeah, recently had a pretty cool sighting of vultures, oh, lots of vultures feeding on carcasses. So at the moment, I mean, the rains are arriving now, but unfortunately, there's some mammal species that didn't quite survive the long dry season. And yeah, it's a vulture's paradise at the moment. Lots of all you can eat buffets all over the place. So yeah, vultures are definitely enjoying feeding on all these elephant carcasses all over the show. So yeah, I think on my last safari we sat for what felt like almost 2 hours watching vultures feeding on carcasses, and yeah, it's always very entertaining to see the politics and the ripping pieces of flesh and meat between each other, and there were two marabou storks fighting over some intestines, and then a cape vulture or whiteback vulture came in, and also like this three-way session of two marabou storks, a whiteback vulture, all ripping at some pieces of meat. It's Yeah, definitely a harsh world out there in the vulture world. You have to fight for every little piece of food you get. So as soon as the vulture restaurant has been evacuated, once the vultures have had a good feed, generally you'll find vultures will always try their best to make their way to the nearest water source for a good drink. Must say, I do love these hooded vulture. They do come in quite an array of different color morphs. So you'll find the adults, juveniles, males and females will often have a lot of different color morphs. So anything from white faces to pink to completely black. It seems to have cleared out quite quickly. Although there's still a few little pieces left where they're all fighting over what they can get left. So vultures are actually very fascinating and a vital bird in the ecosystem and worldwide. So especially their role that they play as nature's cleanup crew. So here's very important key features of vultures. So most vultures are either endangered or kind of numbers are depleting very rapidly. So they kind of are very susceptible to habitat loss, poisoning, and of course, very much used in the kind of mooti traditional sense. You know, a lot of people believe that the brain, especially the brain and the eyes of vultures, are very much used widely through Africa. They believe that eyes can see into the future. So mostly all vulture species are scavenging and do primarily feed on carrion, being dead animals, but they will from time to time supplement their diet. So, for example, the marabou storks do also supplement their diet with hunting from time to time. So, marabou storks will also hunt for fish in little puddles of water, frogs. But yeah, mostly they are scavenging species and they do consume and feed on dead and decaying flesh and even bones. So they have a very strong digestive system in order to digest and neutralize all these dangerous pathogens that they do feed on. So yeah, not many other creatures can do or fulfill the very important role in the ecosystem that these vultures can. And by getting rid of all of that dead and decaying flesh, it definitely plays a very important role in minimizing and reducing the amount of parasites and diseases in the natural habitat. So, Catherine, thanks for your comment there. Yes, definitely some very brutal fights can take place amongst the vultures. They're all scavengers and kind of, uh, yeah, the undertakers of the birding world. So, fighting can be quite nasty between these different species. So yeah, it's pretty impressive though. Like these two different vulture species we have here, the white-backed vulture and the hooded vulture. So each different vulture species is specifically designed in the way that its structure of its head and bill are. So you can tell these little hooded vultures are more have a more narrow and thin bill, and they're more designed for picking at the tiny little tendons and tissues and little pieces of meat that might be left on the bone, whereas these white-backed vultures have very thick, cumbersome bills, which are very good at ripping open carcasses. Whoop, check those marabous. Trying to swallow a whole bone there. So yeah, these white-backed vultures will generally be the first vultures in at a kill, and they are very good for ripping open carcasses. Otherwise, if a hooded vulture, for example, arrives at a buffalo kill, besides picking out the eyes of their prey, there's not, or kind of the dead animal carcasses, there's not much that those hooded vulture can do. They need to wait for the white-backed vultures to come in order to open up the carcasses. And then you get the marabou storks that kind of just hover about like lurking old men, just watching, waiting for an opportunity to use that very long bill of theirs to steal some scraps here and there. These two hooded vultures have probably gone for a bit of a clean or a bit of a bath. Now, just airing out their wings, and we had a pretty epic sighting last week of some vultures that were actually anting themselves, which was pretty awesome to watch. So they actually had their wings splayed out on the ground, and what I suspect is that there was an ant's nest close by. They were letting those ants climb onto their feathers and release the formic acid onto their wings, which can be a very good anti-parasitic or kind of insect repellent that helps them repel insects from their feathers, which is really awesome to be able to watch that behavior. Rosie Adams, thanks for your comment. Yes, vulture fighting can be quite entertaining to watch. Definitely keeps you busy for hours. And Lady Macbeth, yes, you always have those marabou storks waiting on the sidelines to stick their head in and grab a piece of meat for free. So, yeah, because they have that height as an advantage, and again, those long bills, especially adapted for stealing meat away from other vulture species. It's really entertaining watching these vultures, I must say. You can watch vultures for hours, kind of just like watching baboons. So, being a guide and having done many years of safari in the bush, you have to find these little golden moments with species that can keep you entertained. Sometimes, like for example, at Juma this morning, it wasn't the busiest game drive, probably because of all the rain around. So it's good to find species like baboons, velvet monkeys, or birds, squirrels, or mongoose are also very good that can keep you entertained for hours. Just watching them, observing their behavior and interactions. Alrighty, folks. Well, we've had our vulture fill for the day, I think, and very grateful to have been able to watch the vulture feeding here in Victoria Falls. But why don't we head back across to Tau Lodge and see what developments we have in Madikwe? Alright. Alrighty, so it looks like we've got our weavers building some nests. Could be the southern masked weaver. I don't think this weaver's picked the most appropriate tree to build a nest in, I must say. So we were looking for our weavers earlier at Tembe. So it seems like our weavers at Tembe, I don't know what's happened. Sometimes if they get their nests raided by gymnogenes or the African harrier hawk, which we have seen the harrier hawk around Tembe, could possibly chase the weavers away. So maybe they've relocated. But it's my first time seeing a weaver here at Tau Lodge. But again, I'm pretty sure I know which tree this is on. And it used to be a acacia tree that was pushed over and then kind of turned into an acacia thicket. So it kind of had this like upside down umbrella effect due to elephant pressure. And I'm not sure it's the wisest spot for this poor little weaver to be making a nest. So he looks like he started with a nest on the right hand side here that was possibly not adequate. And so he probably started building a second nest, which looks like he's ripping apart, maybe using some building materials for his second nest. And yeah, he could be waiting for a female to fly by and give her approval of his nest. Although, like I said, if I was a female weaver, I don't think I would be too chuffed with the location of this nest that this weaver is building. But nonetheless, I must say, I have all the respect for these little weavers that they're so able to build a nest with their bill hanging upside down from their feet. Isn't that incredible? Not sure what this weaver's up to. He's completely ripping up this nest. Maybe he's you're not too happy that it's around. Maybe it's making his new apartment look rather shabby, so he's trying to get rid of it. Or he could just be getting some anger management out for the day. Maybe he's had a bad week. So Rosie Adams, thanks for your question again. So yeah, often you do find these weavers will make their nests above water, a water source, and sometimes they do actually fall into the water. So they could be susceptible to being eaten by crocodiles if they're chicks or if they fall into the water. Although, yeah, if there's a crocodile in a small pan or area and they, yeah, do have a full belly, I don't think they're going to go out of their way to feed on a tiny little weaver, although it would be a great snack for a young crocodile. But monitor lizards do often feed on nesting birds, brown nesting birds, and they'll also take them to go up into a tree and try to feed on nesting birds in trees. And of course, I'm sure everyone's seen there's quite a few documentaries about the armored crickets trying to get into the buffalo weaver nests. Oh, that one is for me was like watching some sort of horror movie of those armored crickets. Quite a nasty looking beetle creature. Go give it a Google. They are carnivorous, so they will climb up the tree and actually get into the nests of the buffalo weavers. especially like in Namibia, and actually feed on those chicks. Isn't it crazy to think of an insect feeding on birds? And actually, in the Amazon, I think there are spiders that actually make webs that entrap the hummingbirds, and then these spiders do actually feed on the hummingbirds. It is a crazy world out there. So just having a little bit of a scan to see what else is out there today. Just having a look in the tree line. We did have a dead water buck. This is just an Egyptian goose roaming around. Thought, what on earth is that? So yeah, we did have a dead waterbuck. Unfortunately, that was at this pan last week, and there were some lions that actually came and fed on the carcass. So there were a few days where all the antelope were quite alert. Just having a scan, but looks like we've got some impala and also some zebra just in the tree line there. And a spoonbill. Oh my goodness. Hello. Where did you come from, matey? So yeah, we'll check out the spoonbill. Pretty cool to see a spoonbill. I haven't seen a spoonbill for a couple of weeks now. And then on the right, there are some teals. But the question is, are they the red-billed teals or cape teals? Or what else did we have? We had some interesting water birds here last week as well. Here we go. Hello, Mr. Spoonbill. How awesome. I love the spoonbill. That contrast of his white feathers with that pink, very unusual looking bill of his. The spoonbills are filter feeders, and that's how they use that rather unusually shaped bill of theirs. So these spoonbills, they do often prefer large, quiet, shallow waters, bodies of water, and that's where they can forage. And generally, how they forage is by putting their head in the water, and they adapt a side to side kind of slicing method between the water open, and as soon as they feel got a lot of very sensitive nerves in that bill of theirs. As soon as they feel anything inside their bill, they snap away, and that's how they will catch their prey, which generally they hunt for fish as well as small aquatic invertebrates. Generally, they're mostly nomadic, although they can wander um, in local regions in pairs. I've got a call here. Let's see I can play this spoonbill call for you. Not the most attractive of calls, but he is a very pretty bird, this spoonbill. So often, just like a lot of wading birds and a lot of bird species during the day, if they need to have a bit of a nap, kind of tuck that bill of theirs behind their back wing, just have a bit of a rest in the sunshine. And Lady Macbeth, I'm glad you're also excited to see the spoonbill. It's been a while. I think I have got spoonbill on my Tower Lodge list, but it has been quite some time since we saw our last spoonbill. So, Cabello, thank you very much for your comment. What is my favorite water bird? Oh, I'm a sucker for pretty birds, I must say. But of course, I think one of my favorite water birds. Oh, here's a common moorhen. will have to be the super rare birds, the fluff tails, as well as the rails. So very rare birds. You can see in West Africa and Congo some very cool rails and fluff tails also occurring in those regions and make rather unusual sounds. Actually, let me find a sound of a fluff tail. If you're a birder, then you'll definitely know, like the white spotted fluff tail, buff spotted fluff tail, red chested fluff tail, very rare birds to actually see. You do hear them from time to time. They do have a very interesting, all the fluff tails have very interesting deep hooping call. Let me find a decent call here. All right, so this is the sound of the wide spotted fluff tail, which is a really interesting sound. So it looks like we've got a little bit of bird politics going on here. We had the blacksmith lapwing that's chasing this poor little three-banded plover. Again, could be bird politics at the pan politics. This blacksmith is looking rather suspicious, I must say. They don't have chicks at the moment. The blacksmiths, when was it? September already, had their chicks that they probably have raised already. So it's unusual that this blacksmith is being quite territorial. Maybe there's good food source on this side of the pan, and he obviously does not want to share. So yeah, if we've got any of our birding fanatics watching today, like Catherine, Rosie Adams, or Lady Macbeth, I would love you to send me your favorite waterfowl. So my answer for my favorite waterfowls definitely would have to be between the rails and the fluff tails, because they're so rare, very pretty in their coloration. So I'd love you to send through your comments of what your favorite waterfowl is. It's quite a tricky one, I must say, because you got some really cool ducks in there. You get the mallard, that's also a very beautiful duck, as well as obviously the spoonbill with that pink flamingos, probably one of my next favorite. So send through those comments. I want to know what your favorite waterfowl species is. So yep, got a little teals there, also having a bit of a Thursday nap. Shame, I guess they're also having a bit of a hectic week. And our moorhens. So scan the QR code on screen now, folks, if you want to send me those comments. Love to know what your favorite waterfowl species is. Don't forget about the moorhens. They're also quite pretty, I must say. The yellow-billed duck is also a pretty one. We've got our red-billed teals here, but you do get the, what is it? Hottentot teal as well, which is also quite pretty with the blue and the blue-billed teal. Oh, there are so many. But I'd love to know your favorite waterfowl species. This moorhen is busy giving himself a clean, a bit of a preen. Spasiankov, I agree with you there. It's definitely my first time seeing some sort of territorial behavior from a blacksmith. Yeah, very unusual. And of course, because the blacksmith lapwing is so much bigger in size than the little three-banded, he obviously has priority and preference when it comes to territorial displays. So, but yeah, very unusual and interesting behavior to watch, I must say. Oh, these teals are enjoying their Thursday afternoon nap. Almost heading into the weekend. I can't believe it is Friday already tomorrow. I will be with you live at the waterhole for a couple of days though, so I'm looking forward to jumping into some birding tomorrow on our feathered Friday. Maybe we beat our birding record, which would be pretty epic. So yeah, awesome to kind of learn about all the different bird species, and yeah, become familiar with our feathered friends. I must say I do like the crakes. The black crake is quite a cool little waterfowl. So I'm waiting to hear what your favorite waterfowl species are. We were talking about earlier. The moorhens are pretty, but very little color, I must say. But the teals, they're really cute little bird species. I'm looking through. Obviously, you get the white-faced whistling ducks, the knobbed billed ducks can also be quite pretty during the breeding season. You get the little African pygmy goose, which again must be one of my favorite little ducks or goose species. That green, white, and yellow on their bill. Blue-billed teal, as I mentioned, is a very pretty one. Mallard is another cool duck, and of course you get all your herons. Goliath heron is also pretty cool. African finfoot, very bright and colorful. So yeah, what is your favorite waterfowl species, folks? I'd love to know. Rosie Adams, thanks for your comment. I have never seen the blue-billed teal here at Tower Lodge before. Did we see the other day? I'm trying to remember. I'm just having a look at distribution. I know we did see a different teal here the other day. Actually, it could have been the blue-billed teal. I think I might have saw them next week. So, I mean, sorry, last week. I think there was one blue-billed teal here amongst these red-billed teals. So you might be correct there. Just having a look at the distribution. So it is just in range. And have a description of the coloration. So the blue-billed teals are a small brownish duck with a blue bill, a dark cap, and as you mentioned, they do have a bit of a bluish coloration on their back. So I think I did see one blue-billed teal here hiding itself amongst these red-billed teals, which does happen often. So nice sighting there, Rosie Adams. Thank you for the comment. So it seems like there could be one or two hanging around here at Tower Lodge. Just listening to the lovely sounds of these birds chirping in the background. Alrighty, folks. Well, it doesn't look like there's much activity here at Tower Lodge. These teals don't look like they're moving much. So why don't we head back across to King's Camp and see what's happening with our little terrapins? So yeah, it sure is a terrapin day here at King's Camp. I must say, I've never seen so many terrapins at this location before. I know often at Juma, we do get a lot of terrapins at the dam there at Juma, but unfortunately at Gowrie Dam, it's dried up quite a lot. I don't know if it's filled up much with the rains, but those terrapin there at Gowrie Dam would have had to move off probably to Baobab Dam or Biffles Hook Dam, which is actually where Lalamba was seen this morning. I think there was a brief sighting of Lalamba at Biffles Hook Dam. I'm sure the water levels there are still doing well. It's quite interesting in that the similar behavior with terrapins that you get in crocodiles, so the sex of terrapins, so the hatchling is actually determined by the temperature of the nest. So the warmer the nest tends to be, which produces females. So the warmer temperatures will produce females, while cooler nests produce males. So yeah, it's really interesting how the temperatures determine the sex as in with many reptiles. It's similar with crocodiles. The temperature at the top, which is generally warmer, will generally be your females, and then the temperature below, which is generally a lot cooler, will be your males. So, but also reptiles' nests are often raided by an array of predators, as we spoke about earlier, anything from crocodiles to other monitor lizards, snakes, and even birds can raid the nests of these little terrapins. So I'm getting some comments through here about everyone's favorite birds. Catherine, thank you for sending me your comment about your favorite bird being the mandarin duck. And I've just taken a look, and that is a very beautiful bird. I think I might change my answer to this mandarin duck. It's also very beautiful, lots of different colors. I'm seeing lots of yellows and oranges, blues, like some fluorescence. And yeah, the males do look very elaborate. So yeah, so the mandarin duck is a perching duck species and is native to the eastern Palearctic. Pretty little waterfowl. And Sparsian Carve, thanks for sending me your favorite bird species, which would be the swans. And I do agree with you there. Swans are very elegant, as well as some geese species and ducks. Can be very elegant and very beautiful in their different plumage. The African duck is beautiful as well as the knob-billed duck. Yeah, very beautiful different birds. Actually, I think, fun fact, the mute swan was supposed to be listed as the largest flying bird in the world, but because it goes through a molting period where it cannot actually fly for a month or a month and a half, that's where it lost its title of the largest flying bird in the world. So quite interesting because during that period that it molts, it cannot actually fly. So very cool about these swans, also very dainty, elegant birds. So the mute swan can weigh anything between an adult male is generally averaging 11 to 12 kilograms, and a female is generally averaging 8 to 9 kilograms. So yeah, very cool little fun fact about a mute swan. Another interesting fact about these terrapins, so they can survive very cold climates, and in colder climates, what happens with these terrapins is some of these species actually enter a state of hibernation, or it's similar to hibernation, so it's called brumination, and that's when they actually burrow into the mud at the bottom of ponds or in marshy areas, and their metabolism actually slows down significantly, allowing them to still survive the long cold months with little to no food. So it's almost like a topar estivation phase that they go into. So it's not a complete body shutdown. They don't die and then come to life again after the rainy season or the cold winter months. But they actually go into a bit of a topar state where they slow their metabolism down. Alrighty, folks, why don't we head across to one of our other locations and see what's happening at one of my favorite locations over in Mabula. So we have another giraffe down at the watering hole today. So we had a big male giraffe earlier at where was that? Tembe. We had a nice big male giraffe over in Tembe, and now we've got this female that looks rather large, quite pregnant. I wouldn't be surprised if she drops a calf in the next couple of weeks. Let's enjoy watching her go down for a drink, shall we? Sorry, folks. Looks like we had some challenges with our camera there. Feed was giving us trouble, so we're back here at King's Camp with our little terrapin friends. So lifespan of these terrapins, they can actually live quite a long time. So often they'll live anything from about 25 to 35 years in the wild. And some individuals in captivity have actually lived over 50 years. It's quite incredible. So their longevity and long lifespan is partially due to their slow growth and very delayed sexual maturity. Um, which generally their sexual maturity in these terrapins can take anything between 8 to 10 years. It's quite a long period of time that they need to survive in order to become sexually mature for such little terrapins. Sorry, folks, looks like we had some technical difficulties with our feed there. So we've just gone over to Rosie's Pan in the Olifants of Western Game Reserve. Wonder what is roaming around at this location. Maybe we get some cool birds, maybe we have some squirrels roaming around. So Rosie's Pan for me has been one of the really great locations for buffaloes. I've had some really cool buffalo sightings here where literally we had came over to Rosie's Pan and the pan was completely filled with buffalo. Shucks, must have been over 50, 60 buffalo that all came down for a midday mud bath. It's looking a bit quiet today, but we'll have a scan, see what else is around. Hopefully they get some rain soon because it is looking very dry here in Rosie's pan. So a lot of pathways interlinking and interleading to this pan. So let's say when I'm out on a bushwalk in the African bush while on safari, I do love to explore around these pans, look for any fresh tracks, any sights, sounds, or kind of evidence of any cool creatures that might have been roaming, and also following these pathways to see where they lead. It's always very can be quite beneficial, and maybe if you're lucky might pay off. You bump into some cool creatures, but you always have to watch out that there might be animals coming down the paths to the water source. This pan is also very popular with elephants. You can see a lot of elephant dung littered around the pan. So you do get quite a lot of elephant movement here. So these are areas with waterholes are very important areas within a game reserve, although they are known as kind of being sacrifice zones. So when kind of game reserve management and planning of a reserve takes place, generally it is better to stick to the natural water sources, because when you add too many watering holes into an area, you do kind of sub yeah, what would the word be? You do kind of put all the plant life in the area at risk of being kind of demolished. Check, we have a little mongoose, folks. Looks like a little dwarf mongoose has come down for a drink, hopefully. How cute is that? Haven't seen a dwarf mongoose since Juma, so it's very cool to see a little dwarf mongoose. Generally, the dwarf mongoose are in little packs or a band of dwarf mongoose. So maybe if we're lucky, we'll just keep an eye out here for a bit. Maybe the rest of the family, someone close by, and they'll come for a drink. Oh, there he is. Little guy, so he does have to be very, very skeptical, very cautious, because little dwarf mongoose will be a very good snack for a lot of creatures. Oh, check it does, it's our whole family. Hello. So yeah, lots of birds of prey will swoop down, kill these mongoose, as well as predators. So they have a lot of predators, these little mongoose. So I'm not surprised. They're super nervous, but really cool to see them. So this dwarf mongoose is very easily distinguished by its very small size, as well as its very interesting features, its little coloration, a very short tail. So color can be varied from region to region, ranging from tan, yellowish, even to an orange, reddish, and even dark brown color. So depending on the region that it might be in. However, most individuals within one location and a family tend to have the same colorations. There are about 16 to 17 different subspecies of dwarf mongoose throughout Africa. So, good question there. Jay Connor 518 is asking about, are most pans man made? So, you do have a lot of man made pans in Africa, and this might be a supplement to provide extra water for animals in very dry, remote areas. But a lot of pans are actually natural. So, how a lot of these pans will start, obviously, besides rivers, lakes, and streams, estuaries, some pans will actually start from a muddy patch where there might be a few elephant footprints. Next thing, some warthogs go and have a bit of a wallow in those elephant footprints, and then it becomes bigger and bigger, small depression. Then buffalo go and wallow in this depression. Maybe there's some minerals and salts that might be exposed. Elephants start spending some time in that area, maybe taking out the minerals, making this little wallow bigger and bigger. And next thing, that's how a pan is formed. Sounds like some magpie strikes calling in the background. I'm really hoping those little dwarf monkeys will come back. I think they had a quick drink and they're out. I mean, I would definitely not hang around in an open area like this too long if I was a dwarf mongoose. Lots of predators waiting to gobble you up. Just praying those mongoose will come back, maybe with some friends, but maybe we are unlucky. So I suspect they could have a den close by here. So they'll often nest in old, fallen over trees, or even an old abandoned termite mound. So the dwarf mongoose are not necessarily strictly water dependent, so they can survive in areas with very limited access to water. I've seen dwarf mongoose having a den, like a little den site in old trees in forests, quite far away from a water source, like a kilometer away. So they can survive in areas with limited water access. So see these dead old mapani trees make a very good home for the dwarf mongoose. They are very much adapted to arid and semi-arid environments such as savannas, dry woodlands, and areas where water can be scarce. Rosie Adams, really cool. I agree with you there. Cool birds, nice little sighting of a lot of terrapin sharks and a wee little mongoose. Alrighty, folks. Doesn't look like our mongoose friends are going to be coming back anytime soon, although we will keep an eye out for them. In the meantime, why don't we head across to Olifants and see what else is at our locations? Alrighty, welcome to Olifants River, everyone. Looks like we've got some impala feeding on the shoreline and some warthogs. Looks like there's a bit of a breeze in the air. I wouldn't be surprised if it's building up for some more rainfall in the Kruger area. It's definitely a lovely spot to keep a lookout for some leopard. These river lines, always very mysterious places, and perfect leopard hunting terrain. Actually, if these warthogs or impala were a little bit closer to the bottom of this tree, I'm sure you've all watched. There's lots of videos of leopards ambushing their prey, dropping straight onto impala from a tree, which of course is very risky business, especially if it's a male and he has horns. To be very careful, not to miscalculate your landing there, but incredible sightings and amazing to see how agile leopards are and well adapted to hunting even from a tree. So it's a beautiful setting, folks. It's a Thursday afternoon. I don't know if anyone's had a busy, hectic week, but I've had lots of reminders pinging on my phone to take it easy, just have quiet moments. So I think we'll have a quiet moment here. Just have a few deep breaths, take some time to yourself. Let's have a scan, see what else is out there, and just take a bit of quiet time for yourself. Namaste, folks. Take those deep breaths. Don't forget to take those deep breaths in, folks. Have a bit of self loving time as we just appreciate this incredible view. Emerald spotted dove in the background, baboon probably up to no good. So we've got a good question here from JC Connor is asking about which is larger, the Kruger National Park or the Serengeti. So the Serengeti National Park is about 30,000 square kilometers or 11,550 square miles, which is much larger than the Kruger National Park, which is measuring in at 19,480 square kilometers as opposed to 30,000, which is the Serengeti. Or so, yeah, it's vast. Serengeti is obviously very vast and formed for hosting the annual migration of an incredible 2 million wildebeest, zebra, as well as other gazelle species. But the Kruger National Park is also 30% larger in some populations. So yeah, it's incredible how these two national parks, very important part of the environment and harbors a lot of wildlife. So yeah, it was really awesome to just have a few quiet moments. Joanne Mello and Rosie Adams, thank you for joining me for that quiet moment. Um, lovely to see those baboons and some beautiful fig trees. So yeah, the riverine habitat's very important. Little ecosystem in itself. So lots of animals, like we can see here, these impala and warthogs will come down on cool afternoons like today, and with a bit of rainfall and with all the moisture around, there's still some nice greenery for these warthogs and impala to feed on. So yeah, very key part of a lot of animals' days. They've come by and spent a lot of time on these riverine areas. Obviously, a lot of very big fruiting trees. You can get these acacias, the albadas, lots of jackalberries, possibly buffalo thorns, and as we saw, the fig trees, which provide a lot of food to a lot of animal species. Rosie Adams, thanks for your comment there about loving macaws and as well as orangutans. Oh, yeah, I'd love to go on a orangutan safari. They are quite unusual creatures, I must say, orangutans. Very long arms, those shabby orange coats of theirs. It's not like something on the top of my list like sloths. I do have a friend who is a sloth doctor, and in Brazil, she has offered for me to come and visit her anytime and help with the sloths. But I think I could only sloth mode for a certain period of time. I'm more of a, yeah, I'm not really a sloth mode kind of person, more like a, yeah, what would you say? Bush chicken or guinea fowl mode, a little bit faster pace than sloths, but I could try to do the whole sloth moding thing for a few days. But yeah, sloth, orangutans, not necessarily on the top of my list. I think I'd definitely take a black leopard any day over sloth or orangutan, but definitely a cool species to go and observe and watch as well. Another question from Fuller is asking about, can crocodiles and hippos share the same watering hole, and do they tolerate each other? So yes, crocodiles and hippos don't pose any threat to each other when it comes to feeding or food sources. So they're not necessarily threatened by each other. But in cases like the dry season, we are just coming to an end at the moment, when uh, when the habitat is limited and there's not enough water, then you will find from time to time crocodiles and hippos can start becoming aggressive with one another. Crocodiles might take a chance to have a snap at a little baby hippo, although they would be very brave and again either very stupid, because female hippos very and very persistent when protecting her little baby. Um, I have seen videos of hippos killing crocodiles, but not eating. Again, it's when there's limited water supply or limited habitat. Stress and pressure can get very high, and yeah, it can cause some conflict in the water world. Generally, this is times when you find lots of hippos and crocodiles moving from one pan or one water source to another. Sorry, Lady Macbeth. I think I got your message wrong there. I think you said macaques, not macaws. So, yeah, macaque monkeys can be quite aggressive. I would love to go see them. They got very, very intelligent. Oh, sorry, folks. We've just linked across to Kruger. Trying to see. I've got a nice big crocodile here. So, crocodiles have been a topic of the day. I've been speaking a lot about crocodiles today, and yeah, so lovely to see a crocodile out of the water here. I hope his water source hasn't completely dried up. Really fascinating reptiles, these crocodiles, very ancient creatures. They have survived on this planet for over 200 million years. Incredible bite force. So they have over 3,700 pounds per cubic per square inch, or psi. So very incredible muscles in that jaw of theirs. Specifically for hunting, killing, and of course very good ripping power. This crocodile doesn't look very active today. He looks very mellow, very chilled. What is it? August, September, November. So nesting period for crocodiles is actually about now. So September, November within different regions. Sometimes it can differ from a few months here and there. So yeah, this could be a female crocodile, and she could be protecting a nest somewhere, because this looks like a lovely sandy spot for a nest. So she could either be lying on a nest to give off her body heat in order to give her eggs some heat, or she could be very close to her nest somewhere. So that's pretty cool. Spasiankov, yes, I agree with you there. Hippos can definitely kill crocodiles. I've seen on a few documentaries before, but again, not necessarily eat the crocodiles, but definitely kill them when it comes to territorial or space issues on water. But yeah, very cool to see this crocodile today. So, good question there. So, we got a question from Joanne Mello is asking, how big can crocodiles grow to be? So, these saltwater crocodiles, or the Nile crocodiles, the males can grow to be anything between 15 to 20 feet, or 5 to 6 meters long, and they can weigh anything between 2 to 2,200 pounds, or up to 1,000 kilograms, which is rather massive. Giant modern day dinosaurs, definitely. So there have been some individuals reported to be 23 feet or 7 meters. And as I suspect this is a female. So female crocodiles can be significantly smaller, generally between 10 to 15 feet or 3 to 4 meters. So, yeah, a lot smaller than the males. And you do, obviously, there are other crocodile species you get in Africa. So I am very familiar with the dwarf crocodile, which can measure about 5 to 6 feet. So it's a lot smaller than the Nile crocodile. I must say, dwarf crocodile is a pretty crazy species. You get the dwarf crocodile as well as there's another crocodile, slender snouted crocodile. So I've seen a few dwarf crocodile before, but the slender snouted I'm very much more common with. Kind of seen a lot more in West Africa. And yeah, slender snouted crocodiles can actually climb trees. How crazy is that? So yeah, does it look like this crocodile is missing a piece of its tail? Could be from fighting. Often crocodiles do get into fights with one another, and I mean, if a crocodile can get to this size, definitely has been through quite a lot of life challenges, I must say. So Mindy is asking about the gestation period of the eggs. So the incubation period of eggs of these crocodiles are generally 90 days. So I know that a lot of crocodile nesting periods in Zimbabwe start around September, but this could still be a female that has got her eggs somewhere hidden in these sandy banks. And during the time that they are protecting the nest, the female crocodile is very protective over this sandy patch where her eggs are. So, generally, once a day, she'll try to come out onto the bank and place her warm body on top of the nest just to give it some heat. And she never moves too far from the nest during this period of 90 days. Generally, always hangs out close by to protect her eggs from any snakes or monitor lizards are a very big cause of egg raiding in nest raiding in crocodiles. So a monitor lizard would love to find a crocodile nest and munch some of those eggs. So, Spas Eon Carve, cool. Thanks for your question about the crocodiles. And slender snouted crocodiles are a lot smaller than Nile crocodiles. And of course, your dwarf crocodile are the smallest of the three. So, yeah, so pretty cool. Yeah, slender snouted crocodile. If you haven't ever Googled it before, I definitely recommend giving it a Google. Very cool crocodile. So, the dwarf crocodile is measuring in at about 5 feet, 4 to 5 feet, or about a meter to meter and a half, whereas your slender snouted crocodile is generally measuring in about 8 to 10 feet. So very long, very thin. Of course, for me, the most fascinating part is they're obviously very different in their behavior to the Nile crocodiles. They're a lot more nervous, a lot more skittish, and of course, hang out in very thick riverine forested areas. And that's why they've adapted these very long back legs, and that is in order to be able to hoist themselves up into trees. And they normally will sit and lie in the trees, and generally as soon as they hear any disturbance or movement, they'll flop into the water. So obviously, often I've had many Congo adventures on some very mysterious rivers where you come around a corner and you just see this little crocodile flopping out of a tree. Looks like it's trying to fly or something, and into the water. So, obviously, very elusive species and very unstudied. So, because of its very elusive nature and very remote habitat, it's not able to study it very well and is under threat due to habitat loss, hunting, and of course, forest fragmentation. So it is a protected species in West Africa. Alrighty, folks. So we're just checking out other locations to see what else is happening out there just before the end of the show. So why don't we head across to Tembe to finish off the show today and see what else is out there. Joanne Miller, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. It has been a great show today. We were hoping the elephants would hang around here at Tembe for us, but this bull has obviously had his drink, enjoyed his mud bath, and on his way. But other wildlife we have. Nice female impala seem to be really enjoying themselves today in this nice cool weather, and of course lots of greenery around the pan. We're just going to have a little bit of scan, folks, bit of a pan, see what else is out there. Looks like we've still got our foam nest, a tree frog's nest. I really hope that that water doesn't shrink too much and those little baby tadpoles fall into the pan. And Harriet, thank you for your comment and for joining us today. It has been a lovely day here live at the waterholes, some nice overcast weather at all of our locations. You can see where this elephant bull has come and had a lovely mud bath. We'll just have a scan. Maybe if we're lucky, some Nyala will come down for a last minute drink. Or maybe we'll get our little bee eaters. Last minute cool epic sighting. We didn't see our giraffe friend. We had a giraffe, big male giraffe here that was earlier here, but he didn't seem to hang around for very long. Maybe the overcast weather, he wasn't too desperate for a drink. But I do love this weather. See a lot of antelope lying down and resting in the cool afternoon. Our weavers have definitely disappeared. We haven't seen them for a while. Alrighty, folks. Well, from me and the Wild Earth crew, it has been an awesome day. Thank you for joining us today live at the Waterhole. I will be with you tomorrow again. Looking forward to a birding bonanza day. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Have a lovely day, folks.